Bill. He saved Chinese girl from her stepfather and gave her love. Her first words made his blood run cold. Li Wei had always been known in his small village as a kind and thoughtful man. A school teacher by profession, he spent his days shaping young minds and helping children discover the joys of learning. His life was simple, quiet, and predictable. But he found happiness in the small things, watching the seasons change, helping his neighbors, and hearing the laughter of children echoing through the village lanes. Yet, one rainy afternoon, everything changed for him when he noticed a girl who seemed different from the others. The girl's name was May. She was thin and pale, with large frightened eyes that darted around nervously whenever someone approached. Unlike the other children who laughed and played freely, May would sit quietly in a corner, hugging her knees or fiddling with the hem of her worn dress. At first, Li Wei thought she might just be shy. He had seen many children like that, hesitant to join others. But as days passed, he began to notice signs that something was deeply wrong. Her arms sometimes had faint marks, small bruises that seemed too deliberate to be accidents. Bud. She flinched whenever anyone raised a hand or spoke loudly, even in playful teasing. And the way she avoided the gaze of adults, it was as if she was carrying a heavy secret she couldn't share with anyone. Li Wei's heart ached. He could not ignore the signs. One evening after classes were over, Li Wei stayed behind at school, pretending to organize papers.
May lingered near the doorway, clearly unsure if she should leave or wait.
Finally, summoning all his courage and gentle authority, Li Wei called her over. "May," he said softly, "would you like to stay for a little while?" "Right. I can show you a new book." May hesitated. Her small fingers twitched nervously, and she nodded slightly, almost imperceptibly. Li Wei noticed the tremor in her hands and guided her to a quiet corner of the classroom. He opened a picture book filled with colorful illustrations and began reading aloud. May's eyes, which had been dull and wary, slowly flickered with curiosity as she listened to the story. For the first time in days, she seemed a little lighter, a little less afraid. Over the next few days, Li Wei observed her more carefully. He saw the way she recoiled when other children laughed too loudly, the way she avoided certain neighbors, and the way she always seemed tense when it was time to go home. Li Wei's concern grew, and one evening he decided to speak with May directly, but gently.
"May," he said, kneeling to be at her eye level, "is everything okay at home?" May froze.
Her hands tightened around her knees, and she shook her head slowly. Li Wei didn't press immediately. He knew that trust had to be earned, not demanded.
"You don't have to tell me right now," he continued softly.
"But if you ever need someone to listen, I'm here." Days turned into weeks, and Li Wei continued to build a gentle routine with May. He offered extra lessons after school, small encouragements, and words of kindness that she had probably never heard before. Breath. Slowly, ever so slowly, May began to trust him. She started to speak in short sentences, sharing tiny fragments of her life, how she loved drawing flowers, how she liked the sound of birds in the morning, and how she wished she could have a dog of her own. One day May arrived at school with a bruise more pronounced than any before. Li Wei's heart sank. He couldn't ignore it any longer. He knew that her home, under the care of her stepfather, was not safe. But after school, he gently took her hand and asked her to walk with him. "May," he said softly, "I think it's time we talk about what's happening at home." Desperation. "You don't have to be scared." At first, May was silent. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. Li Wei continued calmly. "I promise you I will do everything I can to help." Frowned. "You are not alone."
Finally, with a small, trembling voice, May whispered the truth.
She spoke of fear, of pain, of nights spent trembling in a corner, and days filled with anxiety.
Li Wei listened quietly, not interrupting, holding back his own anger and fear, letting her words flow.
Factor.
After hearing her story, Li Wei made a decision. He knew he had to act, not only as a teacher, but as a protector.
That evening, he went to the local authorities and explained the situation. With their cooperation, he confronted the stepfather, who was quickly held accountable. For the first time, May was safe from the person who had caused her so much fear. When the authorities escorted her stepfather away, May clung to Li Wei's hand, trembling but safe. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of relief and disbelief.
"Really? I don't have to go back?" she asked, her voice barely audible.
Narration, and held her gently. "No, May."
You will never have to go back there. You are safe now.
The days following her rescue were filled with small adjustments. May had trouble sleeping, nightmares sometimes lingering in her mind, but the presence of Li Wei provided comfort. He made sure she had a comfortable room to stay in, helped her with meals, and ensured that she could continue her schooling without fear. Each day he reminded her gently that she was safe and that she was not alone. As May slowly began to open up more, Li Wei noticed small changes. She smiled slightly more often, laughed softly when a bird sang outside, and even began sharing little stories about her day at school. The walls she had built around herself for years were beginning to crumble, brick by brick, under the warmth of genuine care. Li Wei realized that saving her from harm was only the beginning. He had to help her heal, to rebuild her trust in the world and in people. Evenings were often the hardest. Bei sometimes stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Haunted by memories of her past, Li Wei would sit beside her, reading quietly, offering his presence as a shield against the fear that still lingered. Right slowly, he became a constant in her life, a symbol of safety, trust, and care. The villagers began to notice the change too. Whispers spread of the teacher who had taken a troubled girl into his care. Some were curious, some cautious, but all could see the gradual transformation in May. She was no longer the frightened, withdrawn child who cowered in corners. She began to walk with a bit more confidence, speak a bit more boldly, and even offer small smiles to others. Li Wei knew the journey ahead would not be easy. He understood that the scars of the past did not disappear overnight, but he was determined to be there for May, no matter how long it took. He had given her safety, yes, but now he had to give her love, patience, and unwavering support. But he promised himself that he would not fail her. Not again. Not ever. And so, in that quiet village, under the gentle rain and the soft glow of the lanterns, a fragile bond began to grow. A bond built on trust, care, and hope. Li Wei had rescued May from danger, but more importantly, he had begun the work of rescuing her spirit. For the first time in years, May felt the possibility of a life free from fear, a life where she could slowly, surely learn to trust again. After May was safely rescued from her stepfather, life slowly began to change. At first, everything felt strange to her. She had spent so many years living in fear that freedom itself felt unfamiliar. The walls of her small home had always been a place of sadness, but now that she was free, even the simplest things felt overwhelming. Li Wei knew this would take time. He understood that saving her from danger was only the first step. Now he had to help her heal. Each morning, Li Wei would wake before the sun and prepare a simple breakfast for May. He noticed how she hesitated before touching food, as if she had been unsure of when or if she would ever have enough.
Right.
He patiently encouraged her to eat, explaining that she no longer needed to be afraid of scarcity. Slowly, May began to accept the small gestures of care.
A warm meal, a clean room, and soft bedding became small comforts that she had never truly experienced before. Li Wei also made sure that Mei continued her education. He brought her to school every day, walking with her to make sure she felt safe.
Her classmates were curious at first, but most treated her kindly.
Even so, Mei often kept to herself, sitting quietly at the back of the classroom, watching the other children with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Li Wei noticed this and never pressured her to join the others. Instead, he offered small encouragements, praise for completing an assignment, a gentle smile when she answered a question, and reassurance when she struggled. Outside of school, Li Wei tried to create a sense of normalcy in her life. He introduced her to small joys she had never experienced. They would walk in the village park in the afternoons, watch the birds flit between the trees, or simply sit by the river and listen to the sound of the water. Mei was hesitant at first, unsure of how to react to these simple pleasures, but over time she began to show small signs of curiosity. She started noticing the colors of the flowers, the shapes of the clouds, and the rhythm of the wind. One of the most important parts of Mei's healing was the time Li Wei spent simply listening to her.
In the evenings after dinner, they would sit together in the quiet of his home.
He would ask her about her day, encouraging her to speak, but never forcing her. Mei would tell small stories, often about school or what she had seen in the village, and sometimes about her dreams. She started to draw again, filling pages with flowers, trees, and little houses. These drawings, once a forbidden pleasure because of fear, became a window into her soul. Li Wei also made sure that Mei had professional support.
He arranged for a counselor to meet with her regularly, someone trained to help children recover from trauma.
Mei was hesitant at first, unsure of how to speak about her feelings to a stranger. But Li Wei encouraged her, telling her that it was okay to feel scared, sad, or angry.
Your feelings are important, Mei, he would say. No one will judge you here.
Slowly, through gentle guidance and patience, Mei began to open up in these sessions, learning to understand her emotions and express them safely.
Despite these efforts, there were difficult days. Sometimes Mei would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming from nightmares. She would curl into a ball, trembling and crying, reliving moments she wished she could forget. Li Wei would sit beside her bed, holding her hand gently, and speak in a calm voice. "It's okay, Mei. You are safe."
You are not alone. I am here.
His presence became a source of comfort, a reminder that the world could be kind and protective. Slowly, the intensity of these nightmares began to fade.
Over time, Mei's laughter started to return, though it was soft and cautious at first.
She would giggle at small jokes Li Wei made, or when a bird landed nearby, or when a classmate said something funny.
These small moments of joy were victories. Li Wei celebrated them quietly, knowing that each smile represented a step forward in her healing. The bond between Li Wei and Mei grew stronger with each passing day.
He became more than just a teacher or a guardian. He was a constant source of love and support. They shared quiet afternoons reading books together, working on puzzles, and painting. Mei began to call him her friend, and sometimes even hero. Li Wei felt a warmth in his heart every time she said this, a reassurance that he was making a difference in her life. But Li Wei knew that love alone could not erase the past. Mei's trust had to be earned every day. He was careful never to force her into situations she wasn't ready for, and he always respected her boundaries. If she wanted to be alone, he would quietly give her space, watching from a distance. If she wanted to talk, he would listen patiently, offering guidance only when necessary. This balance of presence and respect helped Mei slowly regain confidence in herself and in others.
One afternoon, Li Wei took Mei to the village library.
It was a place she had never been before, filled with books and stories that stretched as far as the eye could see. At first she wandered the aisles quietly, touching the spines of the books with wonder. Li Wei encouraged her to pick one that caught her eye. Mei chose a small book about animals and carefully turned each page, absorbed in the pictures and words. Li Wei watched her with a smile, realizing that these small experiences were teaching her that the world could be safe, interesting, and full of possibilities. The villagers began to notice the change as well. People who had once whispered about the troubled girl now saw her walking confidently with Li Wei, her eyes brightening at small joys. Some offered smiles and greetings which Mei began to return. But while she was still shy, the fear that had once consumed her was slowly fading. Li Wei felt proud but remained cautious. But he knew that trust and healing were fragile, and he did not want to rush the process. Evening walks became a cherished routine. Li Wei and Mei would walk slowly through the village, watching the sun set behind the hills. Mei would point out flowers she liked or notice the sound of the wind in the trees. On these walks, she would sometimes talk about her dreams, a future where she could go to school without fear, have friends, and maybe even have a family that loved her. Li Wei encouraged these dreams, telling her that they were possible and that she had the right to hope. One particularly rainy afternoon, they found shelter under a small bridge. Mei shivered from the cold, and Li Wei gently wrapped his coat around her shoulders. She looked up at him with a faint smile. "Thank you," she whispered.
Li Wei's heart swelled. He knew that her gratitude was not just for the warmth of his coat, but for the safety and care he had given her.
It was a small word, but heavy with meaning. As the months passed, Mei's trust grew. She started sharing more about her past, not out of fear, but as a way of understanding it. She spoke of the moments she had been most afraid, of the small comforts she had clung to in secret, and of the hope she secretly carried despite everything.
Li Wei listened, never judging, always encouraging, and always reminding her that she was safe now.
As weeks turned into months, May's life began to feel more like a normal childhood, though the shadows of her past were never far away.
Li Wei remained by her side every step of the way, not only as her teacher, but also as her friend, protector, and guide. The bond they shared had grown deeper than either of them could have imagined. It was quiet, steady, and built on trust. But with trust came new challenges, emotional struggles, complex feelings, and the slow uncovering of the deep scars left by her stepfather. Li Wei noticed that Mei was beginning to express herself more openly. She started to speak about her interests, her hopes, and the dreams she had always hidden inside herself. One afternoon, as they sat by the riverbank, Mei picked up a smooth stone and tossed it gently into the water.
"I like skipping stones," she said quietly, a small smile tugging at her lips.
Li Wei smiled back, happy to see her finding joy in something so simple. "It's fun, isn't it?" "Just like life. Sometimes you have to try a few times before it works perfectly," he said. Mei nodded thoughtfully, her eyes reflecting the sunlight dancing on the water. They spent many afternoons like this, walking through the village, visiting the library, or sitting quietly under the shade of trees. Mei began to notice small beauties in the world that she had never appreciated before: the bright colors of flowers, the way birds built nests, and the laughter of children playing without fear.
Li Wei encouraged her to see these wonders, explaining that the world could be kind and beautiful, and that she deserved to be part of it. Slowly, Mei also started to reconnect with other children.
Breath. At first, she was shy and hesitant, keeping her distance and observing from afar. But with Li Wei's gentle guidance, she began to participate in small group activities at school. She laughed softly when a classmate told a joke, helped another child with a drawing, and even shared her own stories with a few trusted friends.
These moments of connection were small victories, but to Li Wei, they were monumental.
Each smile, each laugh, and each act of courage marked her progress toward healing. Despite these positive changes, there were still difficult days. Sometimes Mei would recall memories she wished she could forget. A sudden noise, a raised voice, or a shadow on the wall could trigger fear, and she would cling to Li Wei for comfort. He never scolded her or tried to force her to face her fears. Instead, he held her hand, spoke calmly, and reminded her that she was safe.
"You are strong, May," he would say softly. "It's okay to be scared, but I am here. I will never let anything happen to you. Descend." Slowly, she began to understand that feeling fear did not mean weakness, and that courage was learning to live despite it. Li Wei also encouraged May to explore her creativity.
He introduced her to painting, writing short stories, and even simple crafts. May loved drawing the world as she imagined it, bright, safe, and full of life. Ai Wei would marvel at her drawings, praising her efforts and encouraging her to continue expressing herself. These creative activities became a form of therapy for May, allowing her to process her feelings without words and giving her a sense of control over her own world. Over time, May began to trust Li Wei in ways she had never trusted anyone before. She confided in him about her dreams for the future, speaking of hopes that had long been buried. Breaths. She wanted to continue her education, make friends, and one day travel to a city she had only heard about in stories. Li Wei listened attentively, never interrupting, always encouraging.
"Your dreams are important," he said one afternoon as they sat under a tree in the village square. "You deserve to have them, and I will help you in any way I can to make them real." As May's confidence grew, so did her sense of independence.
She began to take small steps on her own, walking to school without holding Li Wei's hand, completing assignments without help, and even making decisions about her daily life. Each small success filled her with pride, and Li Wei shared in that pride quietly, knowing that these steps were building the foundation for her future. Their bond was no longer just about protection. It had evolved into mutual respect and deep emotional connection. Li Wei understood May's needs without her having to voice them sometimes. He could sense when she was anxious, when she needed encouragement, or when she simply needed silence. May, in turn, learned to express herself more openly, asking for help when needed and sharing her feelings without fear. Their relationship became a balance of care, understanding, and trust, a safe haven in a world that had once been frightening for her. But Li Wei also began to notice something unexpected in himself. The affection he felt for May was deepening.
It was not romantic, not in the way adults typically understood love, but it was profound, a desire to protect her, nurture her, and ensure that she always felt safe and valued. He realized that his feelings had grown beyond mere responsibility.
May had become a central part of his life, and her happiness had become intimately tied to his own sense of purpose. May, for her part, seemed to sense the depth of Li Wei's care, but she would sometimes rest her head on his shoulder, hold his hand for reassurance, or look at him with a quiet, trusting smile. She called him her friend, her teacher, and occasionally, in whispered moments, her hero. Li Wei cherished these words, knowing that they reflected the trust and love that had been nurtured over months of patience and care. One day, as they were walking through the village market, May stopped suddenly in front of a small flower stall. She picked up a bright yellow sunflower and held it delicately. "Bus."
"I like this one," she said softly. Li Wei smiled.
"Beautiful, just like you," he said gently.
May's cheeks turned slightly pink, but she nodded, tucking the flower carefully into her pocket.
It was a small moment, simple and innocent, yet it reflected her growing comfort in expressing her feelings and enjoying the world around her. As their days continued, Li Wei began to notice that May's curiosity about the world was growing. She asked questions about history, science, and the stories of people who had overcome difficulties. She read books voraciously, sometimes staying up late to finish a chapter, and would excitedly share what she had learned with Li Wei the next morning. Her thirst for knowledge was inspiring, and Li Wei felt proud to witness the transformation of a girl who had once been consumed by fear into a young mind, hungry to learn and grow. Despite all the progress, Li Wei remained vigilant. He knew that the trauma of her past could resurface at any time, and he was prepared to provide comfort and support whenever it did. He also encouraged May to maintain connections with other children her age, helping her build friendships and social skills that had been stunted by years of fear. Slowly, she began to enjoy group activities, play simple games, and even share her lunch with classmates. Each of these small steps represented a victory over the past and a promise of a brighter future.
During quiet evenings at home, Li Wei and Mei would sit together, sometimes reading, sometimes drawing, and sometimes simply enjoying each other's company in silence.
These moments were precious. May had learned that silence could be comfortable, that being together did not always require words, and that she could trust someone completely. Li Wei felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He knew that the bond they shared was rare and precious, built on patience, trust, and unwavering care. But one day, as they sat in the garden watching the sunset, Li Wei asked May a question that made him pause. "May, what do you want most in life?" he asked gently. May looked at him with wide, thoughtful eyes. For a moment she was silent, then whispered words that made Li Wei's heart skip a beat.
"I want him gone forever, but I'm scared of him." The word struck him like a cold wind. Even though her stepfather was no longer a threat, May's fear remained, lingering like a shadow over her happiness.
Li Wei realized that the rescue had been only the beginning. Her healing was ongoing, and the scars of the past were deeper than he had imagined. He held her hand gently, his heart aching at the weight of her fear.
"It's okay, May," he whispered. "You are safe now."
"I will never let anything hurt you again. We will face this together." May leaned into his hand, finding comfort in his presence. She was beginning to understand that the world could be safe, that people could care for her without expecting anything in return, and that she could trust again. Li Wei, for his part, resolved to be her constant, to guide her through the difficult days, and to help her build a life filled with hope, joy, and love. The months continued with small victories and quiet progress. May learned to face her fears, to enjoy simple pleasures, and to trust people again. Li Wei remained a steady presence, patient, kind, and unwavering in his care. Their bond deepened, a connection built not on obligation, but on genuine affection and understanding. Through all of this, both Li Wei and May began to understand the true meaning of love. Not the fleeting, romantic kind, but the enduring, protective, patient kind that could heal wounds and rebuild trust. Li Wei had given May safety, stability, and care. But more importantly, he had given her hope, a belief that she could live a life free from fear and full of possibility. And so, in the quiet village, under the warm light of the setting sun, their lives intertwined in a delicate dance of trust, care, and quiet love. May was learning to live again, and Li Wei was learning the profound responsibility and joy of guiding a young soul toward healing and happiness. The journey was far from over, but together they faced it with courage, patience, and the promise of a brighter future.
Even after months of careful nurturing, Li Wei knew that May's journey toward healing was far from over.
Both she had begun to smile, laugh, and enjoy small joys in life. The scars from her past still lingered. There were nights when she would wake from nightmares, her small body trembling, her eyes wide with fear. There were moments during the day when a loud noise or a sudden movement would startle her, and she would cling to Li Wei as if he were the only thing keeping her safe. Li Wei had learned to understand these moments as part of her recovery. He never scolded her for being scared. He never forced her to face what she was not ready to face. Instead, he held her hand, spoke softly, and reminded her, "You are safe now, May. No one can hurt you. I am here, and I will not leave you." These words became a lifeline for her, a promise that the world could be kind and that she could trust again. One afternoon, Li Wei decided to take Mei on a special trip. He wanted her to experience something completely new, something that could spark curiosity, wonder, and joy. They traveled to a nearby town, famous for its colorful gardens and peaceful riverbanks. May's eyes widened as they entered the garden, taking in the bright flowers, the gentle sound of flowing water, and the laughter of children playing nearby. For the first time, she seemed to forget her fears, walking with Li Wei through the paths, stopping to admire flowers and watch butterflies dance in the sunlight. Li Wei noticed how her face lit up with genuine curiosity and excitement.
Look at this one, May, he said, pointing to a patch of sunflowers. Aren't they beautiful?
May nodded, gently touching the petals.
Yes, they are like little suns, she whispered.
Li Wei smiled, feeling a warmth in his heart. These were the moments he lived for, the small sparks of happiness that showed her spirit was beginning to shine again.
During their walks, Li Wei encouraged Mei to express her thoughts and dreams. "What do you want to do when you grow up?" he asked gently.
Mei hesitated at first. She had long hidden her hopes, afraid that sharing them might somehow invite disappointment or danger. But seeing Li Wei's calm, encouraging gaze, she began to speak.
I want to study hard.
I want to help people. I want to see the city one day, she said softly. Li Wei nodded, impressed by her courage and ambition. Those are wonderful dreams, Mei, and you can achieve them.
I will help you every step of the way.
As they walked along the river, a sense of peace seemed to settle over them.
Mei's laughter became more frequent, her curiosity more vivid, and her confidence slowly blossomed. Li Wei realized that she was beginning to heal, not just physically and emotionally, but spiritually. Reishe. She was learning to believe that life could be kind and that she had the right to enjoy it. Yet, despite these positive changes, there were moments when the past intruded on their peace. One evening, as they returned from school, Mei stopped abruptly at the edge of a small alley. Her face went pale, and her eyes filled with fear. I thought I saw him, she whispered, her voice trembling. Li Wei immediately knelt beside her, holding her hands gently.
May, it's okay.
He is not here. You are safe. Remember, you are never alone. Mei nodded, still shaking slightly, and Li Wei walked with her the rest of the way home, quietly reassuring her that danger was gone. Li Wei knew these moments were a reminder that healing was ongoing. She had survived the worst, but her mind still held memories that were difficult to erase. He also realized that the trust and love he had built with her would be crucial in these times.
Every day, every moment of patience, care, and understanding was strengthening her spirit and giving her the confidence to face her fears.
One quiet evening after dinner, Li Wei and Mei sat together on a small bench outside his home, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky. Mei rested her head on his shoulder, a sign of the deep trust she had begun to feel.
Li Wei, she said softly, thank you.
For everything.
Li Wei's heart swelled. You don't need to thank me, Mei.
Psst. I am happy to help you. You are strong and you deserve happiness, he replied. In the following weeks, Li Wei decided it was time to introduce Mei to more of the world beyond their village. He arranged small outings to the town library, a nearby market, and even the city park with its tall trees and fountains. Each trip was carefully planned, ensuring she felt safe and comfortable while experiencing new sights, sounds, and experiences. Mei began to show genuine excitement, pointing out new things and asking questions about the world around her. Her curiosity was inspiring, and Li Wei felt a deep sense of fulfillment watching her discover life's wonders. One afternoon, as they were walking through a busy street in the city, Mei suddenly froze. Her eyes went wide and she clutched Li Wei's hand tightly. Li Wei, I...
I remember him, she whispered. Her voice was small, fragile, but filled with fear.
Li Wei immediately knelt beside her, his face calm but serious. May, it's okay.
He is not here. He cannot hurt you.
Remember, you are safe and I will always protect you, he said gently. May nodded slowly, her breath shaky, but she stayed close to him, drawing strength from his calm presence. These moments reminded Li Wei of the fragility of trust and the deep impact of trauma.
He knew that no matter how much progress May had made, her mind would always carry memories of her past.
But he also knew that with love, patience, and support, she could learn to face these memories without fear controlling her life. Days turned into weeks, and May's confidence continued to grow. She began to explore new hobbies, learn new skills, and interact more comfortably with others. She started helping Li Wei with small tasks like organizing his books or preparing meals, and she even began to mentor younger children at school in simple activities. Each of these steps gave her a sense of purpose and accomplishment, reinforcing the progress she had made. But Li Wei also understood that true healing required more than confidence and skills. It required emotional honesty. One evening, as they sat in their quiet garden, Li Wei gently asked May about her feelings. May, how do you feel about everything that has happened? About your past, and about your life now? May hesitated, her eyes downcast. I still feel scared sometimes. Even when I know I am safe, I remember him. I feel angry and sometimes sad, she admitted. Li Wei nodded, understanding her emotions. That's completely normal, May. Feeling scared or sad does not mean you are weak. It means you are human, and I will be here to help you through every feeling. This conversation became a turning point. May began to speak more openly about her emotions, expressing fear, sadness, and even frustration without shame. Patiently, offering comfort and guidance, helping her understand that emotions were not something to hide, but something to acknowledge and work through. One evening, as they returned from a visit to the library, May suddenly stopped and looked up at Li Wei. Her eyes were wide and serious. Li Wei, when you saved me, I was so scared. But you gave me hope, she said softly. Li Wei smiled, feeling a deep warmth in his heart. May, hope is something everyone deserves, and you have it now because you are strong and brave.
He replied.
However, as the days went on, Li Wei realized that May's words held another meaning, one that hinted at the lingering trauma that still haunted her.
He had given her safety, stability, and guidance, but the fear of the past was still present in her mind.
He knew that he had to help her confront these memories, not with force, but with love and patience. One rainy afternoon as they walked home from school, May spoke quietly, almost to herself. I want him gone. Forever, she whispered. Her voice was fragile, trembling with fear, but it carried the weight of her past. Li Wei's heart ached. He knew that even though her stepfather was physically gone, May's mind still carried the shadows of fear and pain. Her hand and said, May, he cannot hurt you anymore. You are safe, and you will always be safe. Psst. We will face this together. Li Wei realized that true healing would be a lifelong process.
It would not be enough to remove her from danger. He would need to help her build a sense of security, self-worth, and confidence that could withstand the memories of her past.
He became even more attentive, patient, and loving, ensuring that every moment of fear was met with reassurance, every tear with comfort, and every small victory with celebration. Over time, May's fear slowly began to lose its power. She started to trust the world again, to believe in her own strength, and to enjoy life's simple pleasures. She laughed more freely, explored more boldly, and expressed herself with confidence. Wei's presence, care, and patience had helped her reclaim a childhood that had once been stolen from her. And so, in the quiet village, under the soft glow of lanterns and the gentle rustle of leaves, May's life began to transform. The girl who had once been filled with fear and sadness now walked with hope, curiosity, and a growing sense of confidence.
Wei had not only saved her from harm, but he had given her the gift of love, patience, and the belief that she could live a life free from fear.
Even though the journey was far from over, May now had the strength to face it, guided by Wei's unwavering support. Breaths. Together they had built a bond that could withstand the shadows of the past, a bond filled with trust, care, and hope. And for the first time in years, May could imagine a future where she was safe, happy, and free. During this time, Wei also began teaching her practical life skills. He showed her how to cook simple meals, how to organize her belongings, and how to care for herself.
These lessons were more than practical. They were a way of building confidence and independence. May started to believe in herself, learning that she could make decisions, solve problems, and navigate the world safely. Evenings often ended with small celebrations of her progress. If May completed a drawing, solved a puzzle, or managed a task on her own, Wei would praise her efforts, reminding her of her strength. He understood that these small victories were building the foundation for a strong, resilient spirit. Over time, May began to smile more freely, her laughter becoming a light that filled Wei's home with warmth and hope. Through all of this, Wei's dedication never wavered. He knew that healing was a slow process, and he was committed to walking with May every step of the way.
He became her anchor, her guide, and her protector, not through force, but through patience, love, and unwavering care. May was learning that the world could be kind, that she could be safe, and that she could trust again. In this quiet village, under the soft light of lanterns and the gentle whisper of the wind, a fragile but powerful bond had taken root. It was a bond built on trust, care, and hope, a bond that would continue to grow as May learned to navigate her new life. But death is all Wayne knew that challenges would come. But he also knew that together, they could face them.
For the first time in years, May had a chance at happiness, a chance to heal, and a chance to believe in the goodness of people.
And so life continued, one small step at a time. With each day, each shared smile, and each quiet moment of trust, May's world grew brighter. Wei had given her safety, but more importantly, he had given her the gift of love, patience, and hope. And in return, she was learning to live again, not just to survive,